How's it going, folks? I was just watching, an older fight there. Yeah, I thought it was the '80s. It had that it had that sort of ring about it. So I went looking for it through the old annals, but it was nowhere to be found. South of 1990, but turns out it wasn't '97. It was Barry Jones. Oh, Barry Jones, was quite good on the commentary, but he used to do a bit with Bunsey, Stephen Bunce, back in the days, on Frank Warren's TV channel, which I was subscribed to, back when it was going. And Bunsey never let him away with it, despite his many glaring, character defects, which might just have been part of his showbiz persona. He always give Barry Jones his due. He said, WBO world champion at such and such a weight. And he could never bring it out of him. He could never get Barry Jones to, say anything more than, yeah, it was what it was a long time ago. You know what I mean? Forget that, let's get to the fights. Sort of a thing. So, thought I would check it out, and it was like a whole British Isles affair, You had, the English guy was sort of doing the main host type of thing. Old Barry McGuigan was quite insightful in the studio. They brought in Jude McKenzie, which was quite good to see as well. So I was sort of counting off the representatives, and then I got into the fight, and there was some old Scottish guy. He sounded quite old. I was trying to get his name, and I was saying, well, he fought Jim Watt, didn't he? Is that who it was? And next thing, Jim Watt popped up, and he started. So there was two Scottish guys. I think it was maybe Ken Buchanan, although it might have been somebody else. And there's another English fellow who was quite, preparatory, public school educated and stuff like that. So, like I say, all sort of classes and contingents were, well represented. It was an interesting setup, what they had in those days. And even all the guys supposedly that should have been big enough and backing Barry Jones were saying, well, he's got no power. He's very lucky to be here at all of this here stuff. And I was like, come on here, like, because I could tell just from watching a couple of the little previews, which was the very first I'd ever seen of Barry Jones boxing, that he knew an awful lot more than what he was letting on. And everybody doubted him, you know what I mean? I think in his brain, he would probably agree with him and say, yeah, I don't really have a chance here, do I? But sure, we'll give it a go. Palacio or something, I think he called his opponent, Colombian guy or something. And I think you could see quite a few of the little things that Barry Jones did, that he's an interesting fighter to watch, Welsh, obviously, we're fond of the Welsh, Even a few of the things he did were sort of, reminiscent of Calzaghe, I could be making that connection, a bit spuriously, but and it reminded me then finally of Tom Jones, a certain documentary done by Scorsese. You had Jeff Beck, you had Lulu, you had Van Morrison. Him and Jones were big mates, two good soul singers, and the sort of accepted wisdom is that Van Morrison is the jazz guy, he makes the unexpected moves and sort of like elite boxer type of thing compared to somebody who's, merely world level, But I decided when I was watching it lately to sort of, because I hear Van Morrison every day, you know what I mean? I've studied him up and down for a long, long time. Still have much to learn and much respect for him. But I was really hooked on Jones. I said, let's check out Jones, because he's Welsh too, isn't he? Not a long time before I got into Tom Thomas. So this whole Welsh and this Celtic connection, was seemed to be something, it was following my nose, And Tom Jones was sort of backing up. Fan. They were duetting on a song, Sam Cooke's song, Bring It On Home to Me. And they were taking it first, and you could see Tom Jones was sort of try this, try that, and it was sort of laying the ground for Van to really open up and go and do something really nice, So, previously I was so distracted with whatever, little niche moves that Van was pulling that I didn't think there was anything for me to be listening to from this Welshman in the background, because I could hear the harmony and I goes, yeah, he's just laying it out. What's happening up here is what's important. And I couldn't have been more wrong, because I tuned into the Welshman, Tom Jones, and he was pulling some absolutely delightful soul, jazz, blues intricacies, which tickled me so much. I was like, that's amazing. And he made no allusion to the fact that he had done something really nice like that. I could hear it was like a horn player in Count Basie's orchestra or something like that. And that was a recent realisation about, already celebrated Welshman Tom Jones, but if you listen to his modern tone, you might go, well, that's not, the little Richard rock and roll thing that we enjoyed in the old days. Great, granted, that's nice, but, I think I prefer the earlier thing. Now I can listen to what Tom Jones is doing now and go, I hear Joe Williams singing for Count Basie or for Duke Ellington. I can make that connection and I can go, oh my God, Tom Jones. Now I've got to, investigate further, and it's a great lesson, Anyway, I better go and watch the rest of this fight. We're about halfway through round 2. I think Barry Jones is about to put on a clinic. Low key. Good night.